Logic has the most customizable user interface of anything on the market. So I'm going to go through and just illustrate some of that. I'll be using Logic's help as my outline here. So we're going to go to basic operation, and we'll start with basic form customization, font size and color. And we'll go through and just kind of take about 15-20 minutes to show you all the changes that you can make to Logic's appearance. Okay, so to change the font size and color, you right-click on the gray area of the form. And each form's independent. You can set each form independently. I'm going to change this progress form here. I'm going to right-click. I can set the foreground color. Let me make it blue and a background. Okay, and background color, can make that white, or let's make it a real light gray. I can come up here, maybe just go right up there, not quite white, but gray. Say okay. And you could do something similar on the log form. Some forms, like if you right-click, you can paste a picture into Logic from the log form. So you have to go down here to Form Properties if you do that on the log form. And same thing here. Foreground and background, I'll just leave them away. But the input of, these controlling these areas over here. So I want the, say I'm going to put red text on the foreground, and I want the background to be, let's say, a light yellow, okay? So there I can, pretty much control the way anything looks here. I can go to, let's change the background picture. Click here, pick any picture. These are some that come with Logic. Okay, so there we kind of have a gradient background. You can put your rig, your antenna there, your wife, anything you want, okay? The next thing we'll look at is customizing all of Logic's different grid displays that it has. By the way, I want to point out everything we're going through here works for pretty much all of Logic's forms. There may be one or two that a setup form or something that you rarely ever use that you can't customize, but for the most part, this works for the log form, the spot log, anything that you want to do, okay? So, I get calls, well, how do I, customize this particular form? It's all done the same way, all right? So if you know how to do one, you know how to do them all. So let's take a look at some of Logic's grids. Of course, the spot log is one. We have the browse window and for the log form. So, again, this all works the same way. You can right-click, and you can change the colors and the grid lines. I'm going to go with lighter lines between the grids, okay, there. So that kind of made that not to be so garish. Change the header colors, foreground, background. Here's the current row that gets highlighted, that yellow row right there. I can make that, it's not going to be any prettier when I get done here, but okay. Another thing that grids have is to auto size all columns, but let me come back to that. Okay, another thing that we didn't look at on the just customizing the forms is changing the font display. So, you can go here, and let's just go with something a little bigger, and you can go bold if you want to. Okay, so that, that changes the font there. Let me just jump back and form properties. Let's say I want to make this whole form bigger. And this happens independently of your Windows settings. If everything's too big or too small, go into Windows and you can change the display size of everything. But anyway, there we made the whole form bigger. It didn't affect the other forms. It didn't affect, let me move this window around here. Okay, there you can see it didn't affect the size of my icons and stuff. They're all really tiny. Okay, so close that. Besides the grid, colors that we just changed, another thing you can do is change column widths. Um, See, time posted, I don't really care about the seconds, so I can, cut that off. If I want to get rid of a column, you can't really remove a column from the grid, but you can make the size down to 0. So let's say I don't care about the uh, continent that um, that it's in. I'll just take any there, the iota. Okay, I'll take it. I just make the width down to nothing, and you see how it's kind of a double line there. So it's kind of tricky getting it back. You got to look around for if you take and you do several of them. It's a little bit tricky to take and expand those out again. Um, what I usually recommend instead is just take and if I don't want just take and put it over here to the right. So I normally don't see it, but if I need to see it, I can just bounce pan to the right and see it there, okay? One thing that you can do with grids is auto size all columns. So there it kind of looks at the data that's displayed. And here you can, that auto sizes all columns. If you want to auto size just one column, you can take and highlight it. Okay, so I want to auto size the spot by. Right click and auto size the spot by column. There it kind of goes by and analyzes the data and auto sizes that column for me. All right. You can change the order of the columns just by dragging them around. Let me put the dx, the distance, right over here next to frequency, or maybe time posted I don't care about, or stick it over here with time received. We've already done this. Remember I showed how you could take and, a column you don't want, you can, slide it out to the right. So just note that you can use that to also change order of columns. Okay, another little customization you can do is to make the header bigger. Okay, over here along the right side, you can't do it anywhere. You've got to be right over here at the right side, and you can make that bigger and smaller. Also note that you can make the data rows bigger or smaller. So there it gives me a little bit more room to read it. Not quite so cluttered, or if I want to really cram a lot of data in there, I can do that. So just another nice little feature that Logic has. Okay, and all this again is documented in help. If you need a quick reference, it's probably easier coming back to the help than doing this. There's all the things we just talked about. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the log form customization. The log form allows you to do a whole lot, everything that we've just discussed here, plus more. I'm going to go down here under log form layout customization, and let me go back to the log form. I think I closed it. Okay, there we go. Let me just set this back to factory default. Okay, there we go. Still kept my pretty background color there. I'll just leave that. Although, no, it's going to make the video really huge. So let me go ahead and let's just set that back to default, okay? Okay, here you have total control over the field positioning of data on the log forms. A lot of the other forms in Logic, let's take the tools and setup, and where I keep track of the memberships list, for instance. This is pretty basic. Let me put some data in here. Okay, so I got some data in here now, but anyway, the point I'm making is that the fields, they're placed where they're placed, and you can't really, change the layout of this. This is not a form you use a whole lot. Usually you just import data into it. If you have a list you want to type in, or go look at the ones you've collected as logging, you can do that. But most of the forms, like, most computer applications, you pretty much have the data form that the company gives you, and that's what you live with. But the log form's a more personal thing. It, something that, is going to, preference is going to vary, just aesthetically from one person to the other, how they like it laid out, or, for different types of operation, you might have a different log form for DXCC, or DXCC chasing, and another one for, VHF local work. Logic comes with several log forms. All the contests are actually, uh, just different log forms, and they're laid out specifically, for the contest in question. Even not contesting, um, here's like a mini log form, just the minimal stuff that you want. Even put a little tiny font on there, and it just, very nice minimal log form that doesn't take up much space. Here's one that's kind of used for diagnostic purposes. Logic has user fields. That's another reason why we have such a flexible logging screen, is that you can put literally any field you want to on it. So this one shows you the raw user-defined field data. So there's the prefix. It's in the user-defined field, but here it is stored in the special place that Logic keeps it. Normally you don't look at that, but here if you want to, you can. Okay. We're not going to get too much into user-defined fields here. There's a whole video on that and a section in the manual about this. I'll just give you a quick overview of that. You go to Tools, Setup, and Log Field Spotting and Awards Tracking. Okay, here's every field defined in Logic. And this is the ones that Logic comes with that you can't remove. Like, for instance, the address field is actually stored right here. Let me put some data in there. Okay. Okay, let's go back to the user-defined, the log fields form. Let me just kind of go through here. Okay, and if it's user-defined, it will, have a check mark in there. I can add my own user-defined field. Let's call it, trying to think of something we don't already have in here. Okay, just a dumb idea. Say you're a big mobile guy and you have 2 or 3 vehicles and a boat and an airplane, and you want to keep track of which vehicle you're using. Okay, so I add a new character, and I want it to be, say 12 long, okay? And I could get really fancy. I could have a drop-down list of all the different vehicles I have, so I can, click and, just like I would with, state, or, here I've got the county set up, so I could have one of those for my vehicle, okay? So I'm just going to save that there. Now let me put that new field that we made where user-defined field 4 goes. So I'm going to click on this button. It's like a little waiter man, tuxedo kind of guy. Brings up a menu of fields that are available, both user-defined and regular. All the fields in Logic that have been defined are here. Go down to vehicle. It's right there. Going to select that and say OK. Okay, notice there's already some data in here. This is because I'd added it and took it out to make the video. You can remove user-defined fields from the screen. It doesn't affect the database. whatsoever. I could even go back and remove it from here, and it would not actually delete the data out of the log for that. Okay, so that's all I have to do to put to assign a user-defined field to an actual field in the log. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put let's put 1010 number for user-defined field 5. Okay. Okay, so note that the little layout problem here. The label overlaps the field, so I can unlock the form. This little hasp is open there, and I can just take and drag that over to the right. Kind of hard to do precisely with the mouse, so instead what I can do is right click, this little form pops up, and then I can use my arrow keys on the keyboard or the mouse to click the little right, left, up, and down buttons to move this around. Also, the width is set to automatic. This is the width of the display on the screen. It does not affect the database again. It's just set to automatic, so it sets it to 12 characters, whatever I set up in the database. Let's make that 4. Okay, so there it's 4 characters. Note that, I can't, the data isn't affected, but it just, I have to pan sideways to see the whole thing with my mouse or my keyboard. Okay. Note also that some fields you can set the number of rows. So that's the comment property. I can make it 2 rows of 78 characters each, and let me make that 80. I can go a little bit wider here. It just makes it look better. Okay, I've got all this I'd have to move down, but you get the idea. I'm just going to cancel this, okay? Note that there are only 5 user-defined fields here on the log form. That's how many it comes out of the box with. You can have up to 20 user-defined fields per log form, and you can actually have as many log forms as you want. So if you ever run out of 20, you can open another log form and make another 20 more. And log forms are set up per operating activity, so you have specialized fields for maybe VHF, another one for rag chewing, and another one for DXing. And choose the appropriate user-defined fields for each. 20 is more than enough. Okay. What I'm going to do though is let's put a user-defined field 6 on here. I go up to the trash can. Put 6 and 7 here, so field user 6, field user 7, I can double click or click and unhide. And I want to have labels beside them also so I know what they are, what the fields are for. You notice fields don't have to have labels. These 2 down here don't. They're just like a standalone label up here, but there is actually no field for these LOTW sent and EQSL sent fields. Okay, so there I have user 7. I don't like it out there like that. I'm just going to go stick it next to user-defined field 6 here. Okay, I can assign them to something now. Let's say user-defined field 6, I want to be DOK. And user-defined field 7, I want to be put in the guy's email address, okay? All right. I'll move this back a little bit. Let me show you something else about setting field widths. On these drop-down lists, you can't type into them. They're just display-only fields. You click on them and select the field of interest. So look at let's find one here, a good example. of a field with, see, like IS0, the 0 isn't quite as big, or look at the 1 there, it's not as wide as the S. It's called proportional spacing, and you can really see that in county. Find something like the I in Baldwin is really tiny. That makes it hard for logic to predict how wide the field needs to be. If it's fixed width, which we use for all the fields that you type in, because that way you can tell when your typing is about to get to fill the field up, okay? Let's take and undo that. The drop-down lists, sometimes you have to set manually. So let me unlock the form and take a look at the DXCC field. You notice it's 7. It's only, I think, 4 in the database. Okay. So if I put it on automatic or type 4 in there and I come over, let's go down to one that's, let me lock the form back. When I try to type in there, okay, put that back where it was. Okay, lock the form back so I can use it. Let's go down here and find a bigger field. Okay, Kingman Reef. See how it's cut off? It looks just like KH5. So it's important for these fields to, set the width manually. So that maybe I can go just a little bit wider just to make sure, but 7 or 8 seems to be enough. All of those are pretty big letters, and it turns out that 7's enough, okay? If you wanted to delete user-defined fields, you can unlock the form. Let me get rid of email. I just drag it into the trash can. Get rid of the label as well. Okay. I can also right-click, and there's this hide thing there. That does the same thing. I still need to, I can also notice I can do the same thing with the labels. I mean, I can move the labels around too. So far I've just been doing it with the, mouse and dragging them, but I could, hide that. That's the same thing as dragging it into the trash can, all right? I misspoke earlier when I was discussing deleting fields off of the screen. I said this is how you delete a user-defined field. Actually, you can delete any field that way. So let me say I don't care about grid, okay? So I hide that. Hide that. I changed my mind. I can unhide them just like I did user-defined fields. Unhide the grid, label, and unhide the grid field. And they're right there where they were left before. Next, I want to show you how to set the tab order of the fields. Tab order is, I see my cursor right there. It's in call. I press the tab button. It jumps down to QTH. It jumps back up to name. You see, that isn't right. I purposely messed it up before making this video. You want to have control over which field it goes to next, when you tab. So I'm going to unlock the form. Going to go to this box right here. Okay. So I've got call, QTH, and name. I want name to come after call, then QTH, and then state, RST, send, RST, receive. That all looks pretty good, but just drag these boxes up and down, and I'm going to put reverse RST, sent, and received, for instance. I can just drag everything in the order that I want it to be. Again, there's help for all of this. Finally, I want to talk about managing log forms. Logic has many log forms included with it. The contesting is all implemented by just kind of a special kind of log form. It has just the fields that are necessary. There's some other stuff here, and this isn't a video on contesting, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this, but here's all the stuff specific to contesting, and there's a little extra stuff to that, or 2 menus here that you can get to for contest log forms and regular log forms. And actually this here shows you there are 3, because this shows me contest and regular log forms mixed together. And the only difference is the only thing that controls which menu they show up in is, let me open, actually I go to log and setup, and contest setup, contest mode on. That's what controls it all right there. So if I were to uncheck that, this would show up as just a regular log form. It wouldn't do any scoring or duping or all that kind of stuff, okay? These are just text files. You go ahead and close that, close that, close that. I've got all my log forms closed now. But let's go to open main, and I can have, many of these open at a time as I want. Okay. Notice how I change one log form, it goes and updates the other one. I've got to do something to cause that to be written to disk, and that gets updated. Okay, so typically you'd have one maybe for VHF and one for maybe rag chewing or DXing. Might have one for contesting and have a general log form open for going to look up other QSOs or for doing your actual DXing from. That's a nice thing about having the nice thing about Logic. It keeps the data from all these different screens in one database. Log screen is just a view on your database. It doesn't, there's not a database attached to each log. That's why I can see this QSO in both the main and the user-defined, in the mini log form. These are just text files. They get created for you, but as you change the log form, it changes these text files. And I go here to select log form, and I click Manage Log Forms, and there are all of my log forms. We go down to many. Okay, first of all, let me make a copy of that. Okay. I'm going to rename it to My Mini. Okay. I can look at that with Notepad. Open with, I'll just use Notepad++ here. It's simpler. It's already set up. But just any text editor, okay, there it goes. It's wanting me to open with Notepad finally. I just tell it, more apps and look for Notepad. I'll get rid of that. Okay, so there's all the, there's where the, label user 6 that I had is. And notice there's a no there, meaning that it's not visible, the left and right positions and so forth. So you don't need to edit this with a text editor, but you could. Okay, let's close that. Let me come back here to Forms, Log, and My Mini Log Form. Okay, there it is. I can make any changes I want to this. I decide I want to make a really huge comment field. Okay. And, if I mess this up, I can just delete it and start over again. I haven't hurt my original mini log form. It's still back here. They're totally different log forms. If I did mess up one of the factory forms, I wanted to get it back, that would be easy to do. I just go back into that directory, manage log form files. I could say I messed up mini. I could delete it, install the latest update again, and it would see that mini is missing and get it back off of the installation for you. Okay, so there, I'm going to delete the mini log form. And next time I do an install of an update or the real thing, I'll get the factory one back. Okay, well, that's about it. Appreciate your taking the time to watch this and learning about some of the many great customization and flexibility features that Logic has. Enjoy it, and we appreciate your comments. Contact us with any questions. Thank you very much.